Lindsay, in terms of, smaller businesses that might not have that kind of expertise in terms of procurement and just accessing information, how might they go about, getting access to that, joining with others if they don't have the wherewithal or just the ability, given that they're small businesses with their eye on so many other, things at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of procurement of green energy, certainly I would encourage them to speak to their energy supplier, of which ScottishPower is one. They should be able to direct them and advise about which tariff might give them what they want. When it comes to your broader supply chain, and also to think about what you might do, there's the Carbon Trust, there's the Energy Savings Trust, there's various organisations out there that can provide that support and guidance to SMEs or other organisations about where they might go for support, advice, indeed what grant funding could be available, or any relief that might be available to help them invest in that journey to becoming, if you like, cleaner and greener and more sustainable in their operation. So there's lots out there. I think that's the thing. There's almost too much out there that you can't really see the wood for the trees. And it would take a bit of effort to sit and work through and prioritise what you want to do. I think that there's obviously a desire to reduce, reuse, recycle. They're the kind of obvious mantras. Energy is, and the way we have decarbonised as a country so far has been through the power sector where I work. We now have to move on to the harder to get to sectors like heat, like transport, and that's where a lot of the help and support and guidance is going to be coming through. And I think as we move into heat and transport, that's where businesses and households will start to really feel it, because that will affect how they commute, it will affect how they live, it will affect how they heat their homes, and what appliances they use, etc., in the premises and at home as well. So that's where a lot of the effort's coming now.
Yeah, and indeed, that's where the prize really is. The kind of that's the next stage of all of this. I mean, we saw hydrogen buses a few years ago in Aberdeen and all the rest of it. But how does Scotland fare on technology around renewables? I mean, I spent a huge part of my previous existence on wind, wave, and tidal, and all the great effort. And the technologies can be really difficult and expensive, and not all of it works. How's Scotland doing on that?
So in terms of the technology, if you like, the capital infrastructure involved in say a wind farm, for example, the capital is only one part of it. And if you look at the wind farms that we've invested in, the real prize is in the operating life, and that's where the real value to Scotland comes, if you like. So the operating life of a wind farm, minimum of 25 years. They're jobs in rural parts of the country for technicians, highly skilled jobs in rural parts of the country as well. So, these jobs are there for the duration of the wind farm, and it tends to be that wind farms can be in certain locales together, and you'll get an efficiency around all of that as well. So there is a kind of cluster approach to it because of just the way the wind pattern works in Scotland. The technology is formally, at the beginning of a new technology, you expect them to be, if you like, expensive or relatively expensive, and that's down to the risk, the uncertainty, the fact that technology has not been proven. But we've done all of that with wind, and the great news is that it's now the cheapest form of scalable electricity generation that you're going to have in the UK. And the other beauty is that wind tends to follow UK consumption. So it blows more in the cooler months when we do need electricity to light, for light, for heat, for everything else that we do in our homes as well. Not to say that solar isn't an option, because it's also come rapidly down the cost curve. The price of panels has decreased massively. And you will start to see solar, even in Scotland, popping up to augment the supply that we already have from wind generation.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite funny in terms of what you said there about the wind and the pattern of wind, and knowing that I'm on the board of ScottishPower Renewables, people have complained to me that a lot of the turbines don't look as if they're working because they're not turning. And when you understand that actually sometimes you're required to have them, not working, and I'm sure just people would be intrigued. Do you want to say something about that?
So I guess the mystery is that it's not that they're not working, they're absolutely working, and they're doing exactly what the national grid requires them to do at that point. So yes, turbines do require maintenance throughout their life, as you would expect. So on every site, on a large site like Whiteley, you can always expect a degree of maintenance activity every single point of the year. And at points when you do go past the wind farm and it isn't perhaps operating, there'll be a reason for that. There is a mechanism, a market called a balancing mechanism. And at points, if demand is low, as we've seen during COVID, for example, and generation would otherwise have been flowing from that site, National Grid will instruct a wind farm to come off the bars, if you like. So that's why we've removed ourselves, and there is a mechanism, and the cheapest energy to remove quickly from that network is wind. And that's why when you go past a wind farm, sometimes it isn't necessarily going round and round.
And I guess the frustration there is that the storage isn't yet, the technology is not there for storage. I mean, on technology, are there opportunities? I mean, do you wish there were some businesses in Scotland able to do certain things? Are there, for anyone watching that's got, engineering, technology, or even investors, is there something that Scotland could be doing more of?
Well, as I say, I think for us, when we look at what we've got large established equipment manufacturers when it comes to the turbines themselves, but the components do require replacement as the life of the wind farm goes on. So whether that's gearbox, blades, whatever, and the software upgrades that go with it. What we have seen are new entrants coming into the Scottish market and moving into that operational service provision as well, and that's been fantastic to see. So people are making that investment. We always welcome competition, as I'm sure you would imagine, into that area. If people are thinking about investing in wind and investing in renewable generation, there's a lot of opportunity there, whether that's in the operational and maintenance side, whether that's on the asset integration side as well, or whether that's indeed in how we take those assets forward and as they age and what we need to do with repowering, etc. as well. So there's a lot of, I think the other thing to know is that in the UK and in Scotland in particular, we have got huge amounts of real intellectual capital when it comes to renewable generation development. We've got a lot of expert consultancies, a lot of very, very qualified engineers and offices all the way across Scotland that know a lot and have exported that knowledge internationally as well, whether that's to offshore markets in Asia, whether that's to markets elsewhere in Europe or up into the Baltics. That experience and capability that we have garnished from the last 30 years of experience that we've got in wind has been exported globally, no doubt. So huge talent pool in the UK with regard to renewable generation, which has been great to be part of as well.
And do you feel Scotland still has a good reputation in this area?
I personally, yes. I'm not going to say otherwise. I've got a team that I'm incredibly proud of, and I think reputationally within the industry, they are perceived that way as well. I think that the industry grows and it attracts people in for very different motivations. As a utility invested in that sector, we are committed to being there for the life of those assets. We are a committed investor, and we don't flip our assets post-build. So we have that relationship with the asset and with the community that then hosts that asset. Others have different motivations for being in the market, but I think the best thing and the most interesting thing is that there is huge demand out there to invest in renewable generation with good reason. It's predictable. As I mentioned earlier, the risk is reduced rapidly. We know how these assets now operate. They are very flexible, they're responsive, they're resilient. And the sector has proven that even through this COVID-19 period, that we have been able to maintain operation, keep the lights on, continue with our construction in line with guidance, and continue investing into those projects as well.